Today, finally, I am busting into my Winsor & Newton watercolour paints that was very kindly gifted to me from Sarah Renee Clark. I'm also going to be opening up this. It's from another YouTuber. Okay. It's from Christy Rice. And in my last video, I asked you guys to guess and no one got it, which I was really surprised. Let's get this out of the way. Okay, so it's a set of her watercolor brushes. Okay. Paint Crush Artful Living with Christy Rice. So they came in this lovely little pouch with some of her watercolor flowers on. Forget rules, forget right, remember joy. I like that, Christy, that's awesome. Love the colors of these brushes. What is about a new brush? I don't know if you're supposed to do it or not, but how all the bristles are stuck together and you just want to squeeze them and unstick them and scrunch them. So I've got a nice pink brush in wash. Yellow, a dagger brush. Next, another dagger, but a smaller one. Cat's tongue. I'd never heard of a cat's tongue brush until I started watching her videos. Oh, and by the way, I want to thank you guys because it's actually because of you that I found her. A couple of you left a comment down below. I think when I was doing a watercolor, what was I doing? Oh, that's right. I did the paintbrush review for Chloe Rose or Artistic Bear Co. And in that video, I did some watercolor painting and I didn't do it very well. So you guys recommended Christy Rice to me if I wanted to learn a bit more about watercolor. So thanks for that. You were right on the money. She's very, I've gone to watch other watercolor YouTubers and my focus and attention's not great. And I can often tune out quite quickly. So I'm not really a very good learner for that reason. But with Christy Rice, her energy and her positivity is just so engaging that, yeah, I'll link her down below. I love her, she's fabulous. And that one's a little green round brush. And then this one also I'm really excited about, and it's the liner. So we've got a very nice set of brushes. I love that they're all different colors, and the rose gold metal bit, I'm sure there's a proper name for it. I don't know what it is. I'm not going to be comparing these to any other brushes I have. I don't think I have anything to really compare it with because the selection of the brush head is just so different to what I actually have. Let's move on to the paints. Okay, so I have to sit here and open all these. How about I speed that up for you? This is really not fun. Finally, now I've just got to get them back into this little tray. Ta-da! All that's left to do is to get down and use these. I am going to watch a few of Christy's videos just to refresh my memory on the techniques and how to use the brushes and whatnot. But I've got this little book. It's How to Draw Cute Heroes. And I'm actually going to have a go at drawing some of the cute heroes in here. Paint them with watercolors. I don't know how that's going to go, but yeah. Let's get into using these brushes and paints. First up, I'm going to swatch out the paints on my own custom swatch cards that I made in my last video. If you like what you see here, I have made these available to you all to download for free. I'll link the video down below that has this, plus heaps of other cute little swatch cards that are in the shapes of all different art supplies. I've started out this watercolour session by following some of Christy's tutorials. When you buy her brushes, she links you to a special video dedicated to using her brushes, and I did find it really helpful. She basically runs you through some activities that get you familiar with how her brushes work, some techniques and abilities for each brush. And listening to her tutorials are so easy. She really emphasises the joy of creating. You know, staying loose, letting go, just go for it. Don't be scared of mistakes. Don't try and control the watercolour. Let the water be free and go with it. And I really felt it. I'm normally such a control freak and get caught up in details and how things should be, that creating like this was so nice. A little unnerving, but nice. Seriously, go check out her channel. She is a natural born teacher and her passion, enthusiasm and joy just radiates through the screen. So, now that Christy has loosened me up, taught me to go with the flow, literally, I'm going to undo all that by following a very rigid step-by-step character drawing. I don't know what I was thinking when I thought this would be a good idea, to combine such a structured drawing with a loose medium. I don't know what to say. Anyway, I followed the step-by-step instructions to create a cute little Frida Kahlo. This book is really easy to follow. I think the illustrations are gorgeous and it's set out in an easy to read way. So if you are chasing a copy, it's by Dawn McDonald, How to Draw Cute Heroes. Oh, by the way, I was filming this with my camera in a new location and it didn't work so well as my head keeps popping into view and I didn't know it until I was editing, so I apologise for my big fat head getting in the way. I did my best to cut it out, but seriously, it's a big head, no lie. I do actually have an abnormally large head, plus big hair. It does make buying ladies' hats rather challenging. So, colouring this, it was fine. Like, I was really enjoying myself and I was decently happy with how it was looking, but I was not totally going with the flow or letting the watercolour do its own thing. I was trying to control its every move and falling into bad habits. I don't know what to tell you. I obviously just can't help myself. I have to be in control. One thing I am proud of is I'm not trying to keep my palette clean and neat. Christy did say, don't be fussy over your paint pans. They will get different colours all over the place and that's okay. And speaking of the paints, as far as I can tell, this is a nice set of watercolours. I can't give you an expert opinion on these as I've got no idea what I'm talking about with watercolours. All I know is they are really pigmented. I mean, check out that black, it's so opaque. They are not chalky and the colours in this set are so vibrant. For my next character, I've already sketched out my own creation. I used the Pablo Picasso from the book, but made it to look like an existing character I created in a Squishmallow customization video. It's Maurice, a little gardening moose. He's a real sweetie, and as I was drawing him, I noticed that I made one arm really short. Then I went to fix it, but changed my mind and decided it was now part of his design and character. He's got half an arm. He didn't have some horrific gardening accident, no bear from the forest tore it off. I've decided he was born that way. But don't worry, his short arm doesn't slow him down. He can still dig holes, plant trees and prune flowers along with the best of them. For this picture, I was trying so hard to just let the watercolour be. But I was still pushing that paint around and trying to tell it what to do. And I was really getting frustrated with myself. So once Maurice was done, I decided to make one final character that was going to be my saving piece. The one that would be loose and flowy and just the look and feel I had dreamt up in my head. By the way, a lot of this painting footage was useless again because I kept doing this. For crying out loud, woman, move your head. I've created Maurice's wife, Abigail. She's a sweet little old lady moose and I used Frida's pose to help me create the silhouette for Abigail. In my bid to try and loosen up and not be so rigid, I did not sketch her, I just started painting. Still didn't help though, I was still bossing that paint around like an old school mom. Plus, I'm not entirely happy with how Abigail turned out. I love the overall character creation, but she turned out looking more like a pig with antlers. I suppose Maurice kind of does too. I think they both still need some refining. And Abigail's picture just was not the one to save the day. So after all that, I have these 3 character paintings that, even though I'm happy enough with how they look, I felt a bit at odds with myself as I don't feel like I really got into the spirit of watercolour. Plus, I didn't get to let the brushes shine. So, after editing most of the video, getting completely distracted and procrastinating way too much, and having a hot flush apparently, gotta love 40, I have come back to the brushes and paints and I'm trying again. Yes, I'm wearing my dressing gown. My brain is telling me to just paint some flowers, but I'm not a flower painting sort of girl. So I decided to go to my comfort zone and have a play, like a real play off camera. Yep, mushrooms. I painted mushrooms again, but I experimented with how I was loading the brush, dragging the brush, 2 colours at once, sketching first, sketching last, not sketching the outside, no sketching at all, wet on dry, wet on wet, full colour background, partial background, painting the background first, painting the background last, and just dropping blobs of paint everywhere. And I think not doing this on camera helped. So I'm still showing you my practice bits here, so you too will know it started rough and can see the progression. But now let's paint a few together and see if I can end up in a happier place. I pre-cut some different papers I have, as I wanted to see how different papers would change the final effect. Gave them a washi border and sketched out my little mushies. I did consider just having plain mushrooms, but I can't help myself. They need arms and little faces. First up, get that palette lovely and juicy. Then I take Big Flatty and dip the edges in 2 different shades of blue and swipe the bottom first, then the top of the mushroom cap. Accidentally over drag it, but no worries. In the darker of the shades, run a line along the bottom to neaten it up and just have a play in the puddle of paint. Let it dry. Then with my own mixed up beigey colour on Big Flat, 2 swipes of generously loaded paint, let the water pool. Then with fine tip, use a darker concentrated paint dragged along some of the wet edges, letting the water carry it. I really think I'm getting the hang of this. I'm no longer bossing the watercolour around, but instead gently coaxing it where I would like it to go and then letting it settle where it wants. Kind of like herding the paint, if you will. Like sheep. You can herd them in a general direction, but at the end of the day, they will still run all over the place. Once I'd painted on some grass, I was feeling conflicted about the top half. It felt unbalanced. A bit like me, really. So I went freestyle, stopped herding altogether and let those sheep, paint, fling themselves wherever it wanted to go. I think this little mushy is a representation of me at this stage of the painting process, at peace with the chaos of watercolour. For the next mushy, I'm mainly going to use a wet on wet technique, carefully painting water on the places I want the paint to go. Totally loving that cat's tongue brush. Look at it follow the line so gracefully. Then I go back in with the paint and just blob it on, while trying to use the darker colour on the bottom and edges and lighter in the middle and top, and just kind of swirl it round. And I really think this technique is for me. I get the control that I crave and need by carefully painting on the water, but the freedom of the paint swirling around and doing cool stuff. Kinda like those sheep when they're in the pens and shoot, ready for a haircut. The gates keep them confined and heading in the right direction, but they still jump around like crazy idiots. What's with all the sheep analogies today? Shout out to my sister, must be thinking of her and her stories as a shearer. Anyway, again, between each block of colour, I let it dry before moving on to the next. That does mean you guys are watching these mushroom paintings completely out of order, because I was actually working on all 4 pictures at the same time. As I would wait for one bit to dry on one picture, I would switch to another one. But I think it makes more sense to watch the process of one mushy at a time. It makes it real fun to edit, but worth it. The grass on this one is probably my favourite. Still not sure about the splashes of colour, but they're fun, and still managing to get my head in the way even though I changed camera angles. For the next little guy, I did him with the same wet on wet technique. did his grass a little different, which I don't think pushing it all the way up to the edge of the washi is as nice as the last way I did it. And for this one, I decided to give him a very fine outline, which I'm unsure of as well. Still love how he looks though. For the last one, I'm tackling this little scene of Mummy Mushy and her two babies. The little blue Mush is standing there poking out his tongue, stirring up his sibling, and the little pink Mushy is most affronted, pointing at her brother, dobbing to Mum while bawling her head off. And poor old Mum is just sitting there like, I am over these kids. Please, Aussie crafter, next time paint me on a tropical beach somewhere, reading a good book with a margarita in my hand. I think we've all been in that headspace a time or two. Again, I was using the wet on wet technique, but for the final touch I did a brown painted outline, which the jury's still out if I like it or not. I don't think it looks bad, I just don't think it was the best choice. So here they all are. Oh my, what a journey. I am so glad I procrastinated after doing those original 3 characters. I don't think procrastination is always a bad thing, because if I hadn't procrastinated, I would have left it at the original 3, finished the edit, and never would have discovered my real joy in watercolours. I love these mushy pics. I think they turned out so well and they make me so happy every time I look at them. Any feedback you guys have, I always appreciate. Do you like the ones without the outline? Do you like the paint splashes, or maybe some advice on how to get some blue sky into the background if you think it'd be better? Constructive criticism really does help me. As for the brushes, they are simply awesome. Once I loosened up with the mushies, they really shone. Anyway, I'll link the brushes down below if you want to see. And that's all from me. Hope to see you next time.